It's time for Hostel Discourse, Episode 11. Now your host, David Rolfing.
Hey everyone, welcome to Episode 11 of Hostel Discourse. It is Super Bowl week and we are talking about everything NFL. We have a couple fun football-related debate questions as well as some fun trivia questions to help decide the winners for our debates. Let me first introduce you to our guest, first-time guest all the way from St. Louis, Cole Norman.
What's going on, y'all? Happy to be a part of the show.
Hello, Cole.
And that brings me to our second guest, Chris Fisher, the brother-in-law of Cole Norman.
What's up?
Nice to be back.
And then
I'm sorry.
returning guests, Jacob and Jared.
What up? Hello.
And then our judge from, was that last episode? Yeah, it was. Noah Roberts.
Hey, guys.
Okay, I have a quick sports question to kick things off. What is your favorite day of the year in sports?
All right, I'll start. It's a close 1 and 2 for me. They're both very similar. My favorite sports day of the year is the Thursday of the Masters. That's the opening day for the tournament, for those of you that don't know. The Masters is my favorite sporting event. I think it is incredibly traditional, and the scenery is beautiful, and golf is my favorite sport to watch. And the first day of the tournament is not the most dramatic, but it's the most anticipatory for me because I've been waiting for that for months, and I know that the next 4 days are going to be the best 4 days of the sports year for me, and I'm stoked. Close second, same thing, but for the British Open, because I have a tradition of waking up at like 4 a.m. whenever the tea times go off in the UK and making a huge breakfast.
So dedicated.
Thank you.
Noah?
I guess mine has the caveat that my team has to be playing in the event, but I would say in general, just like the week and a half over which the World Series takes place, it's probably my favorite, especially when the Cardinals are in it. I have a lot of happy memories during those times. And even in years where the Cardinals aren't playing, it's still just the two best teams in baseball giving it their all. So that would be my favorite.
Jared?
Easy choice for me. It goes like this. Christmas season, best time of the year. March Madness, close second. The opening day of March Madness, you get your 4 screens up and running, 4 games going at once. Can't beat it, my friends. Can't beat it.
That's a fun day.
It is.
Jacob?
I agree with Chris on the Masters. I might say Sunday at the Masters just because the course is that much louder, and it's always an adventure every year. Just so those hours, seeing it all come together, are always special. But the close tie for me would be, this is kind of cheating because it's every 2 years, but the first day at the Ryder Cup, because the Ryder Cup always has stories and kind of intricacies that go a little bit deeper than the majors in a regular season. Plus, it's extremely loud and rowdy and patriotic, and it's really the best of everything when it comes to sports.
Cole, I'm guessing something Florida-related that we've never heard of?
No, I think all these choices are great. I love the Masters. Been there. It's a great experience.
Name
love
dropper.
The World Series, especially with my Cardinals there. I love the World Cup, even though I'm not a big soccer fan. But I'm going to have to agree with my boy Jared. The first 2 days of March Madness is something unlike anything sports knows. What I love about it is just the ability to have all these teams, underdogs, and great, dynasty teams come compete. You see excellent matchups the very first day, even with upsets happening every year. I love how everybody in the country comes together, creates these brackets, competition between everybody with all the teams. You can pick anybody you really want to win. It's just a lot of fun on those first 2 days, just being able to, like Jared said, get 4 TVs, watch everything, and just see actual action, see actual upsets the very first day. That's something that a lot of other sports can't do right off the bat.
Smart man, Cole. Smart man.
Good answers. Mine would be the New Year's card in the UFC. So usually it's like around the first of the month, sometimes a couple of days before, sometimes a couple of days after, but that's what gets me the most excited in sports all year round. There are usually a couple championship fights, sometimes even up to 3. So it's usually a ridiculously awesome UFC card. And that's the only sport I actually care about. So that's mine. Okay, let's get into some NFL discussion. The Super Bowl is in 5 days. What did you guys think of the playoffs? For our less educated listeners, were the Falcons and Patriots the favorites going into the playoffs, or how did that all work out?
I can answer that question. The Patriots, yes, and the AFC, the Falcons, no.
I mean, at the same time, the Falcons weren't exactly underdogs. The NFC was kind of seen as like a 3-headed dog, each of them with an equal chance of making it. I don't know.
A Cerberus.
Yeah, the Cowboys were certainly the favorite.
A lot of Vegas books and just kind of talking media heads, too, had the Packers as the NFC favorite going in on their, 7-game winning streak, bringing that to the playoffs, and with a star caliber quarterback of Aaron Rodgers against, the 2 stars that are rookies and experienced in the playoffs for the Cowboys. A lot of people were leaning heavily on the Packers.
Yeah, the Packers were hot. That game against the Cowboys was probably like everyone's most anticipated game of the playoffs. Is that right? Anybody disagree with that?
Yeah, I think there weren't a lot of other great matchups, unfortunately. That one was very good. Although I do think that it took everything for the Packers to win that game. I had to play a perfect game to do it, and consequentially got pulverized by the Falcons next week.
Which is crazy. That's so crazy. The Packers were so hot, and Rodgers was playing so well. I really underestimated.
Problem is with all those injuries on the defense.
Yeah, that's true.
When you got that kind of potent offense from the Falcons and that crumbled of a defense by the Packers, it's hard for Aaron Rodgers to do anything with that.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're talking about how I felt about these playoffs in general, my one-word summation would be bored. Because I thought, for the most part, yeah, the games were, not that there's much you can do about it, but a lot of the games just lacked drama. Outside of Cowboys-Packers was a great game, super fun to watch. There were 1 or 2 other ones that were pretty fun to watch, but a lot of them were blowouts. The games with the Patriots were blowouts. The games with the Falcons were blowouts. I mean, they scored, 30, 40 points every playoff game. Most of the other ones, if they weren't blowouts, were kind of ugly, grinded out, 5 field goals and a touchdown to win. Let me do the math so I don't embarrass myself. 22 to, 10.
A lot of them took so long.
Yeah, pace of play is a subject in all sports right now because we're millennials and our attention span is very short.
That's why basketball is the greatest sport. A debate for a different time.
I know nobody cares about the Pro Bowl because the players playing in the Pro Bowl aren't the best of the NFL. But did you see the skills showdown thing they had on Thursday last week?
Dude, I legitimately did not see it.
Okay,
I did not either.
I'll read you the list of field day activities that they had the players playing. They had a best hands competition, a power relay, a drone drop.
What?
Meaning they dropped the football from drones from like 150 feet, a precision passing challenge, and a dodgeball game.
Wait, what's the challenge associated with the drone?
It's just like a ridiculously high ball that you have to catch. I don't know.
That sounds pretty hard for
It's like a really
Think of
high
being like a
punt.
punt returner, but catching.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
A dodgeball game for football players. It just seemed pretty desperate.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to... Go ahead, Noah.
Oh, I was going to say all-star games, whether you call it the Pro Bowl or not, they're just definitely waning in popularity.
They suck, man.
I think they should get rid of them completely.
And the MLB...
The only thing that it does is potentially injure players in the future. They can't be making a lot of money off of that.
Although
I'm gonna mildly disagree. I think all-star games are pretty fun. They have become less popular for sure, but there's also a lot of things that are counteracting that to kind of bring the games back into popularity. I know that competition list that David just read off sounded pretty stupid, and it does, but apparently those things were a hit, and I haven't watched it yet, but I heard the dodgeball game and the drone drop were super entertaining to watch on TV, whereas the Pro Bowl competition used to be like, how many 225-pound bench press reps can a certain offensive lineman do? And we're just watching that on TV. You know, now we're watching Gerald McCoy and Drew Brees and Mike Evans play dodgeball against each other, and it's silly, but it's a lot of fun to see on TV. I did not, but I don't really watch any All-Star games. But I heard the ratings were better, and I heard it was kind of fun to watch.
Dude, Chris, I agree with you. Dodgeball, it sounds pretty dope. I didn't know they were playing dodgeball against each other, but it kind of reminds me of, who's the guy doing the 3-on-3 retired basketball league? Is it Drake or somebody?
Ice Cube.
Ice Cube, yes.
That looks awesome.
Ice Cube. Yeah. So I don't know. They're kind of similar, like just fun ways to see the athletes do something different.
Is the MLB All-Star game kind of redeemed because of the home field advantage you get from? Is that the one where you get the home field advantage for the
not
World
anymore.
Series?
Quite the
they
opposite.
took that back for next year.
Yeah, a lot of players and media reacted to it negatively because they didn't think an exhibition game should have that much impact.
What are your guys' Super Bowl predictions? Who do you think's going to win? Falcons v. Patriots.
Patriots are a powerhouse, man. I hate to do it, but I'm picking them. Falcons are hot, playing good. Patriots they're going to win.
What's your score prediction, Jared?
Score prediction. Let's think. 31-30. Close one.
Hey, I was going to take Patriots 28-17.
For me, this game is interesting. We've got a situation with the Falcons that is really, really intriguing to me. With Matt Ryan as hot as he is, playing for that MVP, you got that weapon of Julio Jones, but then you also have Taylor Gabriel coming in out of nowhere from them Cleveland Browns, and you got the two backs behind him, behind Ryan. It's interesting because the Patriots always take out one weapon from the opposite team. So who are they going to take out? Julio Jones? They're going to take out Devontae Freeman? I don't know, but I got the Patriots winning 31-17, baby. Let's go.
Hey, that's the right
Tom
call.
Brady.
Hey, those
number
are all
5.
good points.
Okay, I'm pretty boring. I just like to go with the betting favorite. Currently in Vegas, the Patriots are a 3-point favorite, so I'll take the Patriots. Vegas is expecting a high-scoring game. You guys are saying 31-17. Noah, what was your score prediction again?
28-17.
28-17. So the over-under in Vegas, as the most recent one I could find, is 58.5.
Whoa.
And so for perspective, that'd be more like a 31-27 game.
Jared was pretty close.
What'd you say, Jared?
31-30, Pats.
Ah, yeah. See, that's right on the over-under line.
Economics major there.
I'm really hoping it's around that score, though. I don't want another blowout. These
Agreed.
playoffs have been a snooze. Let's go.
Speaking of Noah bringing up Jared being an economics major, let me make some quick commentary on tonight's wardrobe apparel. First, we've got Cole rocking a Florida Gator sweatshirt at an polo at an NFL podcast. For those of you that don't know, Cole's the biggest Florida Gator diehard fan. Jared is wearing a Make Economics Great Again trucker hat and a Superman basketball jersey. And then my absolute favorite wardrobe of the night is Noah, who was a pretty good Rams fan for his whole life. I don't know how he made his decision, but when the Rams moved to LA last year, he algorithmically chose to be a Buffalo Bills fan. Lord knows why.
The team colors were a factor.
The team colors are pretty dope.
Wonder why, too.
Exactly. And on top of that, doubled down by buying a Tyrod Taylor jersey, who is the quarterback of the Bills currently, but most are anticipating won't be next year.
I got faith.
Truly enjoying that.
Hey,
That's almost as bad as Drake buying a Mark DeRosa jersey a week before he leaves the Cardinals.
Did Drake do that?
He did.
that's a little bit different. You know, Tyrod Taylor was the quarterback the year that I signed up to be a Bills fan, and so I needed something to remember that by, and so I ordered one from China.
Noah, can you give us a quick explanation again of why you chose to be a Bills fan when you were back on the team free agency market?
I would love to. So when the Rams left St. Louis, they also left me. And
/cry.
And I was thrust into NFL free agency, which, as everyone knows, is, very, very stressful, for sure. And I had loose affiliations with several teams, but I didn't want to necessarily jump on any bandwagons. So, obviously Chris is a huge Broncos fan, and so is Thomas. So I didn't want to not be a Broncos fan, but I knew that I couldn't hop on that bandwagon just like that. And so there were a few other teams kind of like that. The Broncos, the Panthers. I could never be a Patriots fan. My family is kind of big Vikings fans, especially my mom, who grew up in South Dakota, where the Vikings are huge. But I didn't want to be a Vikings fan, nor could I be a fan of a team from the NFC North. That, in conjunction with looking at other teams' fan bases, what I found in the Bills is what is affectionately called the Bills Mafia, which is a group of very dedicated Bills fans who dedicate their life to supporting their team. And for a franchise that...
You've already missed out on that, haven't you? Your life.
For a franchise that has endured losing 4 Super Bowls in a row, I would really like to be a part of the Bills Mafia when we finally reach the top of the mountain.
Gosh, you're already saying we.
Ain't happening soon.
Not if Tyrod's at quarterback, Noah. No way.
Tyrod's not a bad quarterback. Honestly, I'd be happy if they kept him.
He's not, but yikes on the purchase.
All right, let's get into these debate questions. The format is a little new this time. So for the first question, which is, who is the best quarterback, NFL quarterback of all time? We split up everyone into 2 teams. Jacob will be the judge of this debate. Noah and Chris will be on a pair, and Jared and Cole will be a pair. So at the end of the debate, the winning pair will face off against each other and answer trivia questions in order to decide who gets the final point. And then there's another normal debate question for the second debate question. The winner of that will get a point, and if there's a tie between 2 people, then the winner will be decided with more sports-related trivia questions. So that is how everything will go. Who is the best quarterback?
Let me go ahead and start speaking for the group. I think we all agree that this was not a strictly 2-man race, but we were trying to pick 2 to be in teams. So let's throw out some of our honorable mentions. Jared, I know you were wanting to throw Aaron Rodgers in the mix. Cole, very justifiably, I believe Dan Marino.
What's up? A-Rod is not a justifiable pick.
He is. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
That's all
I was
good.
just
It's all
adding
good.
adjectives to sound smart.
Yeah. Rodgers.
It's a little premature.
Yeah, it is. I'll give you that for sure. But, man, when he's on, he's on.
I would throw Johnny Unitas in there.
Agreed. The thing about Aaron Rodgers is that he pretty much put the team on his back. He was pretty much perfect for that 8-game win streak.
He was, dude. He was. He played great.
Who are your final picks?
For me and Cole, our final pick is none other than, truly the GOAT. TB12, Tom Brady, looking for his 5th Super Bowl ring in 5 days. We look forward to defending him.
5 days.
That's
Super Bowl number
1
5.
Super Bowl ring for...
Give that ring over here.
Noah and I will be countering Jared's use of truly before saying the GOAT when we suggest Peyton Manning is the greatest NFL quarterback of all time.
When we correctly suggest that.
And truly. So, just to throw out a few different stats. All-time career NFL passing yards leader, Peyton Manning. Second, Brett Favre. Third, Drew Brees. All-time career NFL passing touchdowns leaders, Peyton Manning. Second, Brett Favre. Third, Drew Brees. I know Peyton Manning only has 2 Super Bowls. I put much more weight into MVPs than Super Bowls when comparing individuals. Super Bowl is a team award going to the best 52-man team. MVP is the media-selected best player in the NFL or most valuable. Peyton Manning leads all time with 5 MVPs. Tom Brady has 2, and I have a few other arguments to suggest Peyton Manning. Probably my favorite is I'm a pretty big advanced metrics person, and 538 is kind of a cutting edge advanced metrics website / just kind of overall article producing group, not just in sports but economics, politics, etc. And they say that Peyton Manning is the best quarterback, and by a long shot all time, due to kind of an aggregate statistic of career adjusted yards over replacement players. So it's kind of everything incorporated into being a quarterback. Basically, the projected net yard per passing attempt over a career against an average and against a backup caliber quarterback.
Well, that's all very interesting, Chris. Cole, how about you lead us off with our opening statement?
Okay. So, love the points, Chris. They're interesting. But really, I would like to argue that Brady and Manning's statistics are relatively equal. Just Manning's played longer. So we'll look at a few comparisons. Completion percentages: Brady's 64, Manning's 65.5. Manning's got the edge. Yards per attempt by Brady, 7.4 to Manning 7.7 in favor of Manning. We've got touchdown percentages of 5.5 for Brady to 5.9 for Manning. A slight advantage to Mr. Manning.
I like your point
so far.
Got an
interception percentage rating of 2.0% for Brady to 2.6% for Manning. The edge to Brady. Of all those numbers, the biggest difference would be the interception difference. Again, the reason why some of these stats look so great for Manning is because he's thrown the ball longer. He throws it more per game. And
Cole,
that doesn't make any sense.
Your stats were yards per attempt, percentage of interceptions, and touchdown percentages. Those have nothing to do with how many times you throw the ball or how long you've played. It's a per one attempt statistic.
Agreed.
Thank you. Okay. So, as I go on...
Don't worry about it, boys. We're bouncing back.
As I go on. Okay. So what I'm basically saying is those numbers right there are pretty similar. Little advantage to Manning. But as I go on, I'm gonna throw in a point here. Brady has played his entire career outdoors. Manning has played his in an indoor stadium. Brady's played 92% of his games outdoors, towards 49% outdoors for Manning. That creates a big difference right there. Numbers between Brady and Manning in a dome heavily favor Brady. He has a higher percentage completion, a higher yards per attempt, a higher touchdown percentage, a lower interception rating, and a higher QBR. Again, also to add to that, the outdoor games that Brady is playing every year is in the cold weather of Buffalo, in the cold weather of New York, whereas Manning's games are in a dome at Texas, outdoors in a warmer Tennessee and a warm Jacksonville. Granted, Patriots do play in a warm Miami as well. But there are more games, of course, played in colder weather for New England and Brady. So we'll add that little tidbit to it. I'm also going to say this one point against Chris. Chris talked about how winning Super Bowl is a team thing, but an MVP is an individual thing. Kind of have to disagree with that to the extent that you have to throw it to a really good receiver if you're a quarterback. And that's what Manning's had his entire career. Manning has thrown 240 of his 539 touchdowns to 3 people. A little under 50%. He's thrown 2,400 catches to 3 people: Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison, Dallas Clark. Tom Brady's top 3 targets that he's thrown to have been for about 30% of his entire touchdowns, compared to Manning's 50%. He's thrown 154. of his 460 touchdowns.
Can you say that first statistic again? The 240 of how many touchdowns?
539.
Thank you.
Okay. to those three guys. So basically what I'm trying to say is he's got three potential Hall of Famers in Harrison, Wayne, Dallas Clark that he's throwing to nonstop. His number 4 guy is Demaryius Thomas, who could potentially also be one. And then Brady's top 3 are Rob Gronkowski, potential Hall of Famer, Randy Moss, and Wes Welker. And we have to include the fact that Randy Moss was part of his team for only 2 years. So basically what my point is Brady is able to get the ball to different playmakers more often, guys that the NFL doesn't really even know about. Julian Edelman came out of Kent State as a quarterback in the 7th round, has put up huge statistical numbers. Wes Welker came out as a punt returner from Texas Tech, undrafted, and has become one of the most prolific wide receivers we've ever seen. And then even this year, Chris Hogan has come out of nowhere, undrafted out of Monmouth, and was cut by my Miami Dolphins. My point is, Tom Brady, he has thrown it to 65 different receivers in his career, compared to Manning's 45. He's able to make players better with whatever talent he has. Manning is a great quarterback, one of the best, but he's had so much talent around him nonstop. It's incredible to see Brady just make people around him better.
I think we have a pretty easy and succinct argument against that. I won't hold Peyton Manning. I won't hold it against Peyton Manning that he's had organizational stability around him for most of his career. And I do think he makes players better just as much as Tom Brady does, if not more. He just had a less fluid receiving and tight end core. But in Denver, we saw Eric Decker go off after having monster year and get a huge contract, and he's nothing with the Jets. He's not nothing. He's okay, but he's not worth his money. Julius Thomas, same thing. And I think Noah has a great point.
Anybody in Jacksonville is going to be awful.
Right, understandably so. But I think Noah's got a great point that kind of ties right into this argument. I think Tom Brady's success is a little more of a factor of his coach and the system he's in with the Patriots and Bill Belichick, as opposed to Peyton Manning, who basically carried the Colts on his back for quite a few years.
Yeah, and I would say the biggest example of that would be the season where Tom Brady didn't play a game for the Patriots when Matt Castle was the starter. He came right in, and the team was pretty much just as good. And even first 4 games this year without...
Did they make the playoffs?
Without Brady.
Yes.
Yes, they did make the playoffs. They didn't win the Super Bowl, but Tom Brady's not winning the Super Bowl every year he makes the playoffs either.
So what do you mean by Peyton Manning carried his teams?
So let me
more than Tom Brady did.
I will happily explain that. I've got a list of the records. So both in their careers, basically right in the prime of their careers too, Tom Brady and Peyton Manning both missed a full season due to injury. Peyton Manning had neck injury. Tom Brady tore his ACL. I'm looking at the Patriots record right now, and they had 14 wins, 10 wins, 12 wins, 16-0 regular season, which they lost to the Super Bowls, all with Tom Brady. Next year, Tom Brady tore his ACL in the first quarter of the first game of the season, so he missed the whole season. And under the great skills and quarterbacking of one Matt Castle, the New England Patriots went 11-5, and with made the playoffs, eventually lost. Next year, under Tom Brady, went 10-6. So just remember, they basically had no drop-off. Made the playoffs, 11-5. That's a great record in the NFL. When Peyton Manning missed the entire season due to a neck injury, the Colts were on a winning 7-year streak of winning 12 or more regular season games. The next year, when he was out and Curtis Painter was the quarterback, the Colts went 2-14. So the Patriots saw hardly any drop-off with Matt Castle. And in fact, on a win-loss record, they saw more of a drop-off the next year when Tom Brady came back. The Colts, with Manning out, went from a 7-year streak of 12 or more wins to a 2-14 season. I think that's a very indicative stat of one player being incredibly valuable to the success of his team.
I have a few clarifying questions. First is, so were you being sarcastic about Matt Castle?
100%.
Okay.
Matt Castle since has had some, he got a relatively big contract. He's been a pretty garbage level quarterback in the NFL and is bouncing around trying to get practice squad and backup jobs.
I'm unfamiliar with that season he played as their quarterback. Was he good for that season?
Yes. I don't have his individual stats pulled up. I could do that in a second. But he was good enough.
He was pretty good. He was also playing on the exact same team that went 16-0 the year before. So the talent was already there. Just lost the quarterback, and they didn't do it. They lost.
Right.
In the playoffs.
That kind of
early on
makes our point.
Yeah, I get that.
That he had a good team around him that year. My point with Manning is that he can't win when he has a good defense. 2005, the Colts had the number 2 defense in football. Surrendered just 15.4 points per game and had a 14-2 record. Peyton Manning, with their elite quarterback and their elite defense, went one and done in the playoffs, losing 21-18 at home as they struggled through 3 quarters against the Chargers. And then they do it again in 2007, which was the Patriots' undefeated regular season. They had the number 1 defense in the year, surrendering just 16.4 points per game. Lost in the first round of the playoffs again. So where does this quarterback in the playoffs?
Okay, sorry. I have one more question from a while ago before it becomes irrelevant. I want to know if Team Manning has any rebuttal to Cole's point about climate and indoors versus outdoor play.
Not a huge one. I think weather is a factor in quarterbacking. I think it's something that we shouldn't put so much weight into to hang all our stats on the two quarterbacks play in domes and have that be the only comparison. It's definitely easier for a quarterback to throw in very mild weather as opposed to, if it's cold and raining or snowing. But the amount of games that Tom Brady actually plays in bad weather is pretty negligible. It gets relatively cold, but Peyton Manning's playing outside at the same time, and the number of domed games that Tom Brady has played in is a very small sample size compared to both of the quarterbacks' overall output of work.
Cole, you said Tom Brady's played in a dome 8%? Is that what you said? I believe he said 8%. So yeah, I agree. It's a very small sample size, not even a tenth of his games.
All right. Okay.
Do you really think it's going to change dramatically if the percentage increase?
Yeah, I think the players would be relatively similar if they both played in a dome, if not Peyton Manning being better. And speaking of small sample size, that leads me into my point of Cole bringing up one and dones. He said Peyton Manning could not win with the number 1 ranked defenses, yet the first season he referenced was a 14-2 regular season. That is 14 wins and 2 losses. That is winning with a very good defense. This is the issue with NFL playoffs. All of your regular season work comes down to one moment in the playoffs, and there's a lot of volatility that comes into play. A ton of it is outside of the quarterback's hands. And again, that's an incredibly small sample size to be comparing an overall career versus career debate against is, one playoff game. It's very hard to win in the NFL. It's even harder to take a winning streak through the playoffs and not lose, not have a fumble go one way or the other, not have the tuck rule happen if you're the Raiders and get to the Super Bowl and win. There's just so much volatility that goes into having to win one game and then one more game and then one more game to win the Super Bowl compared to an overall regular season work.
Okay, so
which Brady does.
All right, those are pretty long opening statements. So let's give a few minutes and do rebuttals that we're doing this already, but specifically focus on counter arguments. I think we've all said enough statistics to build our own cases. Let's move into rebuttals and start with Team Brady.
All right, I'm going to jump in here. Here's one thing I'd like to focus on. We're comparing, two who we assert are the two greatest quarterbacks of all time. Cole pointed out in our opening statements that their overall statistics are really nearly identical. I assert, and I'd be actually pretty shocked if any of you guys disagreed with me, that there's not a throw that Peyton can make that Tom can't make, and there's not a throw that Tom can make that Peyton can't make. Agree on that?
In their primes, yeah. Last year, no, because Peyton was awful.
Right, you are right.
I agree.
Yeah, at their best. Okay. So it comes down to other factors than just how well can they place the ball where they want to, because they're both the best ever at it, two of the best ever. So stats that really stand out to me. We talk about how Tom has done better on the playoffs. He's a lot more, like he just wins more, right? He wins more when it matters in the playoffs, Super Bowls. And so let's look at things that really contribute to winning and losing. Turnovers, for example. Specifically, touchdown to interception ratios. Brady, for his career, has a 3 touchdowns to 1 interception ratio, whereas Peyton this is actually pretty surprising for me when I found this, 2.15 to 1. That's a pretty big difference, 0.85 touchdowns difference to an interception. Turnovers are one of the greatest contributing factors to winning and losing games, right? You got to win the turnover battle. It makes sense that Tom does better in the playoffs. He turns the ball over less, and that's super, super important.
I'd like to go ahead and make rebuttal to your statements before we get too far down the road.
Please.
I would disagree that Tom does significantly better in the playoffs, first of all. And second, you're throwing out touchdown to interception ratio. Peyton's also throwing for more yards per game. And if we're talking about an aggregate statistic that measures player performance in game per game, I would again reference 538 and their net, career adjusted yards over a backup or over an average quarterback. And this has Tom Brady at number 3 and Dan Marino actually at number 2.
Yeah.
But it said, and this was written right after Manning was garbage last year, and it said he would have to play 12 consecutive games as garbage as he was against the Chiefs to go into second place under Marino against a average level quarterback. 15 consecutive games that bad to be ranked worse than Marino if we're going compared to a backup quarterback. And I will again circle back to the debate of performance in the playoffs, or clutchness debate, if you will. Let me throw out you the NFL career playoff passer rating leaders. Now, this is, passer rating is a statistic of overall quarterback performance, kind of like quarterback rating. Quarterback rating is a little better, but they're both pretty much the same thing. Tom Brady, 88.7 in the playoffs, career passer rating. Peyton Manning, 87.4. This is on a scale of 1 to 150, so that's almost exactly the same, with Tom Brady having the slight edge. Let me share with you some of the quarterbacks that have a better playoff resume, according to this stat, than Tom Brady. Mark Sanchez, 94.1. Russell Wilson, 94.3. Kurt Warner is actually second from the top of the list. And Eli Manning, Peyton Manning's brother, is even higher than Peyton himself. And I'm even seeing Alex Smith, the game manager of the Chiefs, at 94.5. What I'm getting at is Tom Brady is not actually incredible in the playoffs. He's good, but he's not incredible.
I hear you, Chris.
He's on a very good team in a very good system that gets to the playoffs a lot. And he's very good at working in that system.
I hear you. So I'm really glad you're bringing up this advanced statistic from 538. I'm quite familiar with the article, and I can't wait to get to that more in just a second. But let me illustrate what we're saying about playoffs real quick. Let's take the 2003 season just as one of many examples that we could throw out. The Colts offense in 2003 was pretty unreal. They had a 12-4 season. Peyton won his first MVP that year. In the playoffs, they did well. They were a great team. They made it to the AFC title game. And in the let's see, when they played New England that season in the playoffs, Peyton threw 4 picks, had a 35.5 rating, and they lost 24-14 to Brady and the Pats. I understand it's a small sample size, one game, but I could pick out, like this happened in 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007. They had great teams, and he just broke down at points in the playoffs. His performance was bad. So that's that point. Now, let's get to the interesting stuff, the advanced statistics, and this article from 538. So, like I said, I'm quite familiar with it. They've got, Peyton, then Dan, then Tom. Well, like you, Chris, I'm a big fan of advanced statistics, and I'm a big fan of 538. And it just so happens that they wrote another article analyzing quarterbacks with the same statistic. And here's what they found. Yes, in a regular season metric, Peyton still tops Tom. But here's some interesting things. At their peaks, so the best point they play, so I'm looking at a graph right now that it's titled "The Top Regular Season Quarterback, quote, Dynasties of the Super Bowl Era, Best Consecutive Multi-Year Peaks by Cumulative A/Y over A," that's the advanced stat you're talking about, over the average quarterback. So we're looking at who played the best peak level over a 1-year period, and then a 2-year period, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 10. Tom Brady has the highest peak statistic for every stretch of years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Peyton comes in second place 3 times, comes in third place, looks like 5 or 6 times. So at their peak, 538 actually asserts that Tom's best is better than Peyton's best. All right, now, the other thing 538 does is the chart you're looking at and the article you're citing is talking about regular season play. When we go down and we look at a weighted value, which includes playoff games, and they weight playoff games more heavily each round, Peyton actually drops to 5 on that list, and Tom comes in at 3. 538's weighted value of that statistic you're citing has Tom on top, and they make it quite clear. Let me quote some of the article for you. So is Brady the best of all time? At his regular season peak, he might very well be. And if he has a few more great seasons, he could pass Manning on career value over average for the regular season. But for now, Montana reigns supreme among Super Bowl era quarterbacks when playoff performance is included in the calculations. So they seem, 538 seems to weight the weighted calculation, including playoffs, certainly greater than regular season alone. And they've got Tom ahead of Peyton in that statistic. So I think at best for you guys, the 538 advanced statistics and stuff are unclear. And at worst, let me give you another quote that they say here. They say, quote, "Even so, Brady's stats have risen far above those of his peers, including Manning, during the peak of his career. Once all of the aforementioned adjustments are made," and they adjust for things like playing outside and stuff like that. So, the 538 case doesn't look great for you guys. It's unclear at best, and at worst, they actually explicitly say Brady's stats have risen far above those of his peers, including Manning. So I think advanced stats definitely lean in Brady's favor.
Those are good points, and I think that's very interesting.
Can we just reiterate too,
I remember what I was going to say.
Tom Brady's 39 and he's actually getting better?
Yes, you can reiterate being better with no backing evidence, and we will all listen to it.
Sure, I can. Okay, so in the past 4 years for Tom Brady, we've seen every year his yards per attempt go up from 6.9 in 2013 all the way to 8.2 this year. His interceptions have dropped every year from 2013 to 11. to now 2 just this year. And his passer rating has also increased each year through 28 touchdowns, 2 picks this year in 12 games. I reiterate, he is 39. He is going to be lasting at least 3 more years, if not more. This dude's a tank. Really don't see anything stopping him from at least getting to another Super Bowl, if not more.
Okay, I'm impressed with the arguments presented so far. I think we should move into closing remarks. I'll allow 30 seconds per side. Team Manning, you have 30 seconds starting now.
Closing remarks. Peyton Manning is the NFL career leader in yards, touchdowns. I didn't mention this, but fourth quarter comebacks all time, which is a display of clutchness. His team dropped from 14-2 to 2-14 the year he was out, where Brady's went 10-5 with Castle. And the advanced metrics on a career level regular season suggest Peyton Manning is the best. Jared's 538 referenced article is a playoff weighted article, which suggests Brady is the best. I would go ahead and include that. That is a reference of the overall team and system performance compared to actual individuals, and Manning is your all-time NFL leader in the MVP award.
Okay, Team Brady, you have 30 seconds.
Okay, greatness is determined by many things, advanced stats, regular stats. In the end, all those stats are... There's no such thing as an individual stat, right? I mean, Manning has had great teams too. And so it comes down to this.
It comes down to the eye test, right, Noah?
The eye test. That's what I'm talking about. The eye test.
If it's the eye test, I got to say, man, TB12 is a pretty good looking guy. Is that the eye test we're talking about?
No, I'm talking about...
Peyton's forehead is huge.
We're not talking about... Okay.
Peyton's forehead's so big, it's called 5-head.
Oh, ouch, ouch, ouch. Look, here's the deal. Advanced stats, 538 explicitly favors Brady over Manning.
Arguable.
Even so, Brady's stats have risen far above those of his peers, including Manning. That's a direct quote from them. So, not too arguable. He's a winner. This is going to be his 7th Super Bowl appearance. And
7.
Yeah, 7. And his chance to win 5th. That's...
Bill Belichick's 10th.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's truly unheard of for a player to have that many chances. So he's got the stats, he's got the championship.
Time up. Jacob, who made the most compelling argument?
This was a really fun debate to listen to. Everyone knows so much, and everyone prepared really well. I was surprised at how similar the statistics were, and even more so how different the statistics should be evaluated depending on the quarterback's environments, like their team and where they played. And it was really when we started talking about advanced statistics that I felt like we got more towards truly trying to figure out how we evaluate the greatest quarterback. I think when it got to that point, the statistics started to favor Tom Brady more. I give this debate's victory to Team Brady.
Whoop, whoop.
Let's go, baby.
A worthy victory.
Brutal.
Well done, Cole. Well done. It's an honor to debate with you, my friend.
And trust me, as a Miami Dolphin fan, it hurts to say Tom Brady's the best. Dan Marino's my boy, but
all right,
got to give credit due when it's due.
Game, respect, game. I like that.
Neither of you have received the winning point yet, so now you have to face off with some trivia questions. Let's do first to get 2 answers correctly wins the point. So that could take more than 2 questions. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So this question's for Cole. Who has the most wins as a head coach in the NFL?
Oh, shoot. Is it George Halas?
Nope. Jared, you can steal.
The GOAT. Bill Belichick.
No, it's Don Shula.
Dang, man, I didn't know.
Yeah. I was gonna give you another shot. Okay, question number 2 for Jared. Which NFL team features a helmet decal only on one side of the helmet?
This is an easy answer. The answer is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, correct. All right. That's one for Jared. You only need 2 to get the
Goodness,
point.
what kind of question was that?
Thank you very much.
Cole, you're the podcast rookie. You have to answer the harder questions.
Cole, this question's for you. When was the first NFL game played? What year?
Oh, I'm
Can you
going to
say it
win this
again?
point.
What year was the first NFL game ever played?
Oh my gosh, really? Okay, it's in the 30s, I believe. Okay, it's either 32 or it's 31. I'm gonna
Neither
say
of those are right.
1932.
Wrong.
Okay.
Jared, do you have a guess?
Okay, I'm pretty confident I can get closer than that. I don't know if I can get the correct answer, but my guess is the year 1912.
No.
Isn't it 1800s?
It was 1920. Neither of you get it.
These are really tough
Yeah, this
questions,
is
except
tough,
for the
man. It's
Steelers
tough.
one.
Okay, I'll go on to some other questions. Still 1 point for Jared. This is Jared's question, the first answer.
me.
What team appeared in 4 consecutive Super Bowls from
Oh
91
my.
to 94?
Oh, baby, Noah
Oh my
Roberts.
God.
It's the Buffalo Bills, baby.
Yep.
I love it.
Congrats on
Noah
getting
celebrating.
preschool questions, Jared. I'm happy for you.
Thank you. I've got a preschool mind. I needed it.
Jared, you get the first point of the debates.
Whoop, whoop. Also, my first point of all time. I've been in many debates. I've never won. So that goes to show how bad I am at this. Thank you all very much.
So proud of you. All right, now on to debate question number 2. I know some of you might have varying levels of knowledge on this subject, but this is a 4-person debate, every man for himself. Should college athletes be paid? I will judge this and decide who had the most compelling argument.
I'll start us off. Okay, so for me, my opening statement is this. The real question we're being asked is, should they be paid efficiently? They are already compensated, and the question is, in a market system, they would make so much more money. I've got some numbers on that I'll hold until rebuttal and stuff. But in a nutshell, they deserve to be paid much more. Would I do it in practice? No, I would not. I think the costs outweigh the benefits unless you do it in a certain way, which I will explain shortly. It's a salary cap, kind of low salary cap. You can pay players competitively that way and avoid some of the costs of paying players at their market value.
Noah?
Well, I know Jared just kind of wrote a paper on this, but I have very similar thoughts. I think, although I would add one more thing, keeping player compensation to tuition and fees and stuff maintains the amateur nature of college sports. I think the NCAA has run a campaign for the last, I don't know, however many years that talks about how the majority of college athletes go on to something other than sports, which I think is a very effective way of communicating that college athletics is still very much an amateur competition, despite all of the attention that media brings to it and the money that it can bring in. So I would say, although there is definitely a competitive reason to put in an artificially low salary cap, it also maintains the amateur nature of college athletics.
Well said, well said.
Cole, what do you think?
Yeah, I like that, Noah. That's good. I tend to agree. It's hard to really put a balance on it because, like Noah said, there's just so many athletes that don't go pro. Small percentage do. And how do you limit that? How do you limit these big schools with all this revenue to be able to just buy all these stud athletes? Where's the balance in that? How do you figure out how much money you can spend, or if there is a limit, what is that limit? And then also, like, what about the other sports? What about basketball? What about baseball? What about women's sports? How do we show equality? Like with Title IX, we're going to have that start up all over again. I get it. a lot of these athletes are trying to make it to the NFL for their families. They come from low income families, and I understand it's hard, and I understand it encourages good. It encourages like the end of corruption with agents and boosters, but unless there's like a really good platform idea to implement, I don't see how it could really help.
Chris, what is your opening statement?
My opening statement is a response to everyone's mostly in agreement. Cole is looking for an idea. I have what I deem to be a good idea, but also pretty unrealistic. And my viewpoint is pretty cynical. I think this is a conditional answer. For the most part, college athletes are fairly compensated with their corresponding scholarships. But especially in football and basketball, and football particularly, it's a joke to call some of these players amateurs and provide them compensation with something that they don't want. So I think the NFL is abusing this and using college football as a minor league system, whereas every other major league sport has a constructed minor league pro system where players are getting paid and operating with professionals. And I think the NCAA is corrupt, and they make millions of dollars off these players. The schools make millions of dollars off these players. But if these players try to get $100 for signing a few jerseys and pictures, they get banned from the NCAA. They get their Heisman stripped. It's a joke. My relatively far-fetched and unrealistic solution would be to create a kind of pseudo minor league that is still college football, but it has these powerhouse schools in it. So your Alabamas, Ohio States, your Michigans, and my Florida Gators,
And the Golden Hurricane.
the Golden Hurricane. So my solution would be the players that are technically on scholarship at these schools would be paid, and paid handsomely, because the players going to those schools are not going for an education. They're going to showcase their talents in their respective sports and try to get drafted at as high as possible. And if you're a walk-on at that school, great, you're not going to get paid. If you're playing at any other school, you can get your scholarship and you'll be the big man on campus, but you won't be paid. But, Alabama's defense this year is, the majority of them are first-round picks, and it's a joke to say that they were fairly compensated this year, risking their future careers for injury, playing for nothing but school pride and a national championship, which bears no monetary reward.
Chris, do you think that perhaps another way of accomplishing your goal would be to remove the 3 years out of high school requirement?
Yes and no. For most sports, I think in basketball, it's a joke. NBA players are ready to go pro if they're good enough out of high school. LeBron James, Kevin Garnett, Kobe Bryant.
The greatest basketball player of all time.
Yeah. NFL, I sort of get it. I think the motivation behind it is still more corrupt than it is for the benefit of the players. I think the NFL is never acting actually in the benefit of the players. But I do understand, you don't want a high school kid coming straight in and taking hits from, a seasoned NFL Pro Bowl linebacker. I do get that. I think it's in place for multiple motivations, and more of which aren't the right ones, but I think I understand why that's there.
Jared, you mentioned needing the right payment solution or whatever. Do you have a specific or non-specific plan that you would like to see if athletes are paid?
Yes. Yeah, kind of. Let me throw some numbers your way real quick. For everyone listening, most of us, all of us except for Cole actually, have either attended the University of Tulsa or are attending it now. So let's talk about TU for a second. TU football players, if they were paid by the same system that NFL players are paid by, meaning that 50% of revenue has to go towards players, then on average, a TU football player would earn about $55,000 a season. That's actually pretty comparable to
Yeah, that's like almost spot
the compensation.
on, probably.
Yeah. So with tuition
Can you
and
say that
fees,
number again?
55,000.
Okay.
And so that's pretty good. Yeah, with tuition and fees and all that stuff, that's pretty good. As a reference, basketball players, since they make less money, but they also have 105 less players to split the money amongst, they'd be worth, TU players, about $180,000 a season. Compare that to schools that actually have a football presence and are known for their programs. Texas is the school with the highest football revenue. The average Texas football player is worth $505,000 a season, and that's just on average. Like that's split among all 120 players on the team. That's a big number. To mention our favorite website, 538 again, they actually attempted to estimate how much like elite college quarterbacks are worth in a season. And long story short, the best ones are worth around $3.5 million a season to their respective colleges. Far, 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 far more than they're getting anything close to right now. So I agree with Chris in that, like, compensation for the best players at big programs is a complete joke. By the way, anybody want to take a guess at who the quarterback was that's worth the most according to 538? Trivia question.
What year is this?
Ever or this current season?
It's ever. So you can pick the quarterback and the year he played if you want to, or just the quarterback.
Is it a 1 year statistic?
It's a 1 year statistic. Yeah.
I have my answer.
Do tell.
Is the dollar value inflation adjusted? Is it nominal or real?
It's real, my friend.
Oh.
Give me a second then. Okay,
You want me to say mine?
I'm gonna stick with my answer.
All right, let's hear him.
Matt Leinart.
Okay.
I'm gonna go same year as Noah. I'll take Vince Young.
Okay, you got a Vince Young, Matt Leinart. Cole.
I'm gonna take the boy.
Tim.
Oh,
Super
stop
Tim
it!
Tebow.
Stop it!
Tim.
Oh, I love it.
Tebow.
I love it. So we have 3 Heisman winners picked. Am I right? All 3 won the Heisman?
Vince Young never won a Heisman.
Yeah.
Oh, Vince never won?
Reggie Bush won his year.
Oh, okay. Okay,
yeah.
right you are. It was actually Andrew Luck in 2011.
What?
Really?
My doppelganger.
Yeah. So he was pretty good.
Who said that?
I did.
You have a neck, David. You have a chin.
Thank you.
Okay, so David, back to your original question with the some perspective on the numbers.
So do you think that 50% split is what you would want them to do or not?
It's just a really good starting point. That's in place in the NFL, and the NBA has a really similar system. But I agree with Noah that the better solution, it would be much less costly. Like all these administrative costs and stuff will just go away compared to Chris's alternative of a minor league, is just to get rid of the requirement to go to college. If you're good enough to play NFL, let him go play in the NFL. And if you're big enough and good enough to go play in the NFL, getting hit by the linebacker is going to sting, it's going to hurt, but calling them high school kids is a little deceiving. If they're playing in the NFL, they can probably take a hit or two. But yeah, so I get rid of the high school restrictions, get rid of any, like, if you sign with a team, you can't go to college and all this stuff. Deregulate, in other words. And then, yeah.
Hey, for every new regulation, you got to take 2 away.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? And then, yeah, put a salary cap so that teams can competitively, they can compete for what are now their labor of their football players. It'll be a somewhat competitive market. Prices will be below what they would be with no restrictions and anything like that. But what the cap does, where you allow them to compete, is, Cole was saying, how do you break up the Alabamas that get all the good talent? How do you break up all these guys? Letting them compete is how you do that. And I think the costs, for a lot of reasons, of paying them at market value outweigh the benefits. I think it would detract way too much from the purpose of a university. And in a cap system, you can compete competitively. Alabama can't pay every player the max amount, and so you can get some smaller, Pac-12 or Big 12 or whatever schools bidding those guys away. So it's better for a few reasons. 1, competition will be better. 2, the athletes will be compensated closer to what they should be, but not anywhere close really. And it maintains the integrity of the motivation of playing college football, like Noah was saying. So that's my solution to it.
So where does school get in the mix of this?
So what I was saying about school was many athletic programs already take money from the academic side of the college to help finance stuff and break even. If you start paying players, significantly more than scholarships, that hurts the bottom line pretty bad of the athletic programs. And so at least for a while, until they can get something figured out, the costs from the academic side of the college, I would expect to go up a lot. The athletic programs are going to have to borrow a lot more to break even, at least for a few years. And I think the cost of universities whose main purpose is education, right? To be focusing more and more and more.
More like money.
Yeah, that's true. But I think, education should be the goal, and giving more and more money to the athletic programs that are having to pay players more and more is going to hurt the resources the academic side of the college has. It, could potentially make education worse. And so I think a low cap is the right balance between how much the academic side has to give to the athletic side to make it work, and everything else I mentioned: competition, fairness for the players, all that kind of stuff.
Here's my quick rebuttal, and it's almost an agreement and building off of it to Jared. In a general sense, I'm all for deregulation, and in my super league of college football, it would maintain the college powerhouses. This is what I would suggest, and responding to your academic kind of the lessening impact on that as far as costs go. College football and college athletics are actually not-for-profit businesses, and so those resources don't actually go back into the school from sports to other academic areas or labs or reducing student fees or whatnot. Everything goes back into that respective sport. So that's why Alabama and Oregon have these like ridiculously incredible $100 million facilities that are just where they, tie their shoes, and then, $2 billion stadiums or whatever. That's an exaggeration, but so I would suggest, I like the idea of deregulation, taking off the 3-year minimum from the NFL, making this conference of for-pay college football that still maintains these college powerhouses, because I think we actually don't like parity in college football. We like it in the NFL, which is why we have the NFL draft. But in college, we have these storied traditions from these powerhouse schools, and then the lesser-known schools have their few moments where they are involved in these incredible upsets and incredible underdog stories. So I would suggest, you can pay a percentage of your revenue to your players, and it can be capped or not, and you can pay as much as you want for one player. So the better players will get more, the more valuable players will get more. And ultimately, this is not affecting the schools. The players are getting fairly compensated, and the NFL still has their pseudo minor league system, which is a joke anyway. But that's all I would suggest.
I'm a little bit unclear on your point about them being nonprofits and not giving money back. Just so we're on the same page, my point was that the athletic programs take money from the academic side, not that they give it back. I'm looking at a spreadsheet right here that's got all the major, actually I think all no. The top 40 Division I athletic programs by revenue. Most of them, a percentage of their revenue comes from the university, the academic side. So
when you say revenue, you're looking at the entire school revenue and not revenue from the athletic program?
I'm looking at college athletics revenue. Under it lists university. So let's take Alabama. They receive over $4 million from the academic side of the university. And I'm saying that number is going to go up and up as athletic programs' bottom lines take a hit.
Because they're paying players, is what you're saying?
So I might actually argue differently. I mean, so I would assume that $4 million a year that the University of Alabama Athletics Department receives probably doesn't do anything for the football team. So that might go to support swimming or wrestling or other kind of non-revenue generating athletics. Whereas my guess would be that the football team operates pretty much autonomously based on boosters and TV contract money from the SEC. Granted,
Right.
I mean, I don't know that for sure. My guess would be that if you were to institute this cap idea, my argument would be that at the same time you might also lessen regulations on boosters. My guess would be boosters would pick up the slack where you might project the university picking up the slack, if that makes sense.
It makes sense.
You guys should give your last 30 seconds of statements. We're not going to be able to find out exactly where all the money goes from university football teams.
My point
within
is
the next 5 minutes.
Don't add a salary cap. Keep the amateur nature of college athletics. If you can get the NFL to do away with their 3-year rule or lower it to 1, I'd be all for that. Basically, the way the NBA was before they put in the arbitrary 1-year rule, you have your Kobe's and LeBrons that will make it, and you have the Kwame Browns that won't, and it's their choice whether or not they do. Because even if they don't, they still got like a $5 million signing bonus.
Exactly. And so here's my closing statement. My system is the one that best, we've talked about, we need to find a balance. Mine best balances academics with player equity, with competition of the sport, with relationships between the NFL and colleges and not professional players. It's the right balance. It's the one where the benefits most outweigh the costs. Yeah.
Cole, you haven't said anything in a while.
Yeah. I don't have much to say. I don't think Jared's idea would put education first, and I don't think it would become a priority at all for these people who are getting paid to do a sport. I think it would be an interesting idea if these colleges gave recruits options. Options could be like, we'll pay you for 4 years, but you have to be here for 4 years. You have to commit to the university, play here 4 years, get your education. We'll pay you. Or you can decide 1 year of college, no pay. You can leave after the first year and risk making it or not. Again, I don't really know how that would all work, but I think giving it options instead of just paying everybody would work. Plus, I just don't know how the balance would work out with the women's side of sports and the other sports. I think there would be a lot of strife in between them. Again, I don't know what the best option is, but I don't think fully paying would be in the university's best interest.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, could you expand in your final 30-second statement on the pseudo minor league thing? Because I think that was kind of like the unique point that you had.
Sure. I just think it's a joke. So the college football is the minor league for the NFL, but the players aren't paid and they are not under professional contracts, and they are at risk of losing their future cash flows for injury, playing for no money. There is insurance nowadays that big time players can buy to protect themselves versus future draft pick slots and whatnot. But anyway, I think everyone has good points here. I think Jared's work is awesome and his research is really cool.
Oh, yeah.
I think Noah brings up some really good points about how the big schools' revenues come mostly from TV money and boosters. That's very evident, and I did misunderstand what Jared was saying earlier. And I think Cole has a cool idea of kind of flexibility of contracts, of saying you have to stay here and we'll pay you, or you can be unpaid and stay for 1 year or whenever you want. My idea is keep the powerhouses in college football, make them a 4-pay league that's still college football. It'll be Alabama, Ohio State, Texas, and 16 other teams that will pay their players, and you can pay as much as whatever. There's a percentage of revenue or a hard salary cap that maintains a pseudo minor league for the NFL where players are actually getting paid. They're still college football powerhouses, and those teams can still play St. Mary's and Appalachian State and lose 1 out of 100 of those games and have an awesome ESPN highlight And the rest of the schools are still having a lot of fun playing college football for normal college scholarships.
Great points, everybody. I think that this issue or problem, whatever you would call it, definitely doesn't have a simple solution and has many different facets. And I think that Jared's argument kind of covered a lot of those more than everybody else did. Cole, I liked how you brought up, like, what would you do with women's sports and other sports that don't make any money? Like, that would be hard to deal with. But
they don't make money anyway.
Yeah.
There's no balance there.
Cut that out.
Yeah. I think Jared covered the most points and kind of gave the most applicable solutions, and I know that he has done a lot of research on that. So, Jared, you win your first Hostel Discourse debate session.
Congratulations, a worthy winner.
Thank you. I give all credit to my Make Economics Great Again hat.
Not your Super Bowl or your Superman basketball
basketball jersey's big time, I have to say. But I think the hat, I made a last-second call to switch hats onto this one, and it's my lucky hat now. I can feel it.
Where did you get that?
In New York from
your cousin?
From Dan.
That's hilarious. That's awesome.
That's pretty awesome.
Very nice. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. And thank you, Cole, for being on for the first time.
Man, Cole.
Pleasure.
T.Y. Cole.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. We will see you guys. We'll be back in 2 weeks, every other Friday. That is the schedule. See ya.
So long. Deuces.
Later.
Thanks for listening to Hostel Discourse. Subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. And check out our other social media accounts linked in the show notes. Join us next time for more inexhaustible debate over the most questionable of topics.